Hi everyone, welcome back to the shop, and welcome to another live stream here at EP3D Studios. I'm your host Matthew. I'll be doing all this stuff. In front of me, behind you, is my producer wife Emily. Say hello.
Hello.
She's going to be reading and relaying comments my direction and questions. So what do you have to say? Any questions you have, go ahead and ask, and we'll do our best to answer them. Today, what we're going to be doing is finishing up the conversion of the y-axis linear motion to the linear rails on the Sidewinder X2. Got started on it last week. I ran into a little bit of a snafu. The extrusion, the aluminum profile here was a little bit dished in the middle, so the rails weren't sitting flat. They were kind of concaved in, just a little bit, a couple tenths of a millimeter. So it was causing some pretty serious binding, and the carriage wasn't rolling very smooth. It was catching and binding, which is the exact opposite of what we want for this type of modification. So, and I had suspected something was out of alignment, because when I would loosen a couple of the screws on one of the rails, it would be fine, and then as soon as I tighten them, it would cinch up and then get all tight and weird. And so I started taking straight edges and calipers to everything, and I figured out that the middle of this was dished. So luckily I have a milling machine in the garage, and I was able to clamp this down and take a fly cutter to it and take off a few thousandths of it. No, I took 10 thousandths off in total, just to make sure. So I don't know what that is in what's 10 thousandths of an inch converted to millimeters? Doesn't know. So she's still getting a little set up here, getting her station set up. You doing okay? Oh boy. Okay, so I'm going to start getting after this.
So you don't need me to read these yet?
I do need you to read those.
Why?
I can't pay attention to it and this at the same time.
What do you got over there for?
Just in case you had a question that you didn't quite understand and you wanted me to read it, or in case you had a viewer whose name you can't pronounce or don't understand. That way I get these. You want me to close it?
Drew did the conversions for you.
I can't. Oh. No, it's more than that, Drew. I don't know. It seems like it'd be more than that. 1/10 of, or 1/100th of an inch, 0.01 inches. What's the math? I'm gonna do the math. Let's see. How do I even do that math? I'm not with it today. Never mind.
You got other comments then. I'll do
Okay.
math for you.
What are my other comments, honey bunches? I'm depending on you for this.
What did you say it was?
0.01 inch.
.254 millimeter. Close.
What do you have on there? There's a lot of stuff here I can't read.
Well, the decimal place was just in the wrong spot, that's all.
Oh.
That happens to me a lot too.
Yeah, that happens. I guess that makes sense, yeah. Because it's a derivative of 25.4.
That's what Rich says, multiply inches by 25.4.
Yeah. Okay, so.
Well, Stephen wants to know what you print the Z and X carriage out of.
So the carriage is just aluminum, obviously. But it's lifted up 10 or so millimeters. I don't remember the exact measurement. So for the belt, I have an adapter. Well, that will go like that. And the belt is held with a couple of screws. And you could tension it that way if you want to, or I'm deriving up a tensioner, an easy tensioner for the actual front part of the machine. For the Z-axis, PLA works just fine. It's stiff. It's pretty tough. You're not worried about like impacts. So PLA would be just fine. You could do PETG or ABS. Either one of those will do just fine. Just the PETG can be a little tougher to print with some, I mean, you got to have your printer super dialed to get really good dimensional accuracy, as close as you can for this type of printer. So the easiest filament to get dialed in would be PLA. PETG is a little bit tougher, especially because there's so much variance brand to brand. With PLA, I haven't noticed as much variance brand to brand, other than a couple percentage points with flow rate. But as far as like retraction and temperature, it's all basically the same for PLA. Silks
For the x-axis and the z-axis, what will you print the parts out of?
The z-axis, I'm going to do PLA. For the x-axis, I'm not sure yet. I might actually do a couple of aluminum plates that will screw in, but I haven't gotten to that design yet. The x-axis is the next part of the design, and I would like to do it that's 3D printable, which I'm sure it is. There's not that much stress being put on it, so PLA would probably be just fine with the correct design, and that's something I'm going to work on. I need some water. Sorry. Too much coffee this morning.
Steven says, I'm going to wait for my new K1 to print the parts.
There you go. I ordered a K1 as well, so I'm excited to see how that works out. So, and if that doesn't work, I have my Two Trees SP5 that does quite well. I actually have an example part for the Z-axis that I'm going to show off later. So, yeah.
So going back, Steven's obviously here and says, hi, everybody.
What's up, Steven?
Drew's here and says, made it. Rich says, hello. Ricardo says, hey, guys, how are you today?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. We got ourselves a crew. So, awkward pause. Gonna start getting these together. One thing I did do, and I posted it in the video description, and it's actually in the description this time. I don't have to do it later. I thought about this. The STL files for this guy, where's the spacer at? Here, I'll put them right here for you, honey. The spacer for the end stop, the belt adapter, and then these are alignment jigs to help you line up the rails, parallel, even, correct spacing, and all that. So I'm going to show you how this works right now by getting these rails installed. So, and then something I learned recently is that on these rails, there's going to be a line ground down on one side, and that line is supposed to indicate the precise side. So this side is supposed to be more precisely ground than this side, apparently. So that's interesting.
We have somebody here from France. They say hi from France. It's midnight there.
Oh my goodness. Hello from France. Or hello. Hello, France.
Drew says, if you do make them out of aluminum, will you provide a step file, STP file?
Yes. For those that have CNCs or want to be able to do it that way, yeah, absolutely. So I'm just going to put the precision side, the precision grind line on the inside. Just why not?
Steven says he's been watching your Clipper live feeds and is going to use his old Raspberry Pi for it.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. And I still am planning on doing a Clipper video, like a how-to, real detailed. I'm still working on getting the kinks. I have a few small issues with my Clipper install that I got to figure out. But once I get all that done, that's the next video, is to get that done. Once I get Clipper figured out, hopefully in the next month or so, I'll have that done. I have a few videos planned for the next few months that should be pretty fun. I have one that's going to be super fun, kind of like a vlog style deal. So these here, they're an interference fit, so they'll kind of clip on to the rails and the extrusion here, and I have holes where the screws are, and so you put those over the screws and kind of line them up. Same for here. And then one in the middle for safekeeping. So, depending on the precision of your extrusion, it might wiggle a little bit on the outside. That's okay, because the inside parts where the rails are is what's really more important. So when you do tighten it down, you could just put a little pressure on it to hold it on one side or the other. I mean, we're talking not even a half a millimeter of wiggle on that. So this extrusion isn't quite 60 millimeters wide exactly. And there's going to be some manufacturing variance with those. Make sure I get the right size screwdriver here and get these tightened up. Okay.
Stephen asks, are these files available?
Yes, a link is in the video description and they're on my website, etherealproject3d.com. Go to downloads and it'll be under the 3D printer mod collections. Snug those up. And you don't need to over tighten these. I just have 2 on each side for now. That seems to be enough.
And the old tech guy dropped by and says, hey, what up, brother?
What's going on, Ed the Old Tech Guy? Thanks for dropping by. For those of you who don't know Ed the Old Tech Guy, he does like home improvement, DIY, tools, tech, a little bit of everything in that nature. Really good guy, really good content. You should go down to his channel, Ed the Old Tech Guy, check it out. Really good stuff. Get subscribed. You'll like it. If you're into any sort of DIY tool content and home improvement type stuff, he also does like IT stuff, and he does some really fun live streams. Him and his buddies, they do memes and stuff like that. It's a lot of fun, and they just talk tech and talk the world of tech and the DIYer and tradesmen and stuff like that. That kind of content. Really fun stuff. So pop those off, and those are on there. So yeah, Ed the Old Tech Guy, thanks for dropping by. We appreciate you. First we got to get the belt deal on the carriage. I have some relief cut out to slide in where the old belt mounts were. And there's a little bit of freedom of movement there just because, these probably aren't all exactly the same, within a millimeter or so. And there's screw holes. Put the screw holes on the outside. Just like that. So if you put them on the inside, it's going to be very hard to tighten and adjust your belt. And then use some M5 hardware. Where's all that hardware?
Ed says, thanks, man. Be kind.
No problem, Ed. You've been awesome. Ed the Old Tech Guy, he was my 10th subscriber. I actually started watching his live streams a couple of years ago, and just really liked the content, really like it. His live streams are the best. He's just a really good guy, really good energy. So you don't even have to be into the exact content that he's doing. It's just a really good energy, really good...
super cool vibe.
Yeah, just a cool vibe. A good atmosphere just to chat, especially with all the people that get in the live stream too. Really nice people that join in. So...
See, I'm hoping I get this one right because they've joined us a few times now. I think it's Yodan Hunter.
Yodan Hunter.
Psyched for the upgrade.
Psyched for the upgrade. Heck yeah, I'm psyched too. A lot of this I was planning on doing on my X1, but I just never got to it. And now we're at the point where I have more time and ability to do this. So parts that I've had laying around for the X1, I'm finally going to be using on this because they're both very similar machines. The only big structural difference is that the upright extrusions on the X2 are offset toward the back about 20 or 30 millimeters, which is weird. I don't know why they did that. So, what? She went downstairs to yell at the chickens, I think. Are you yelling at the chickens?
Somebody's got to yell at the chickens. They're yelling at the neighbors, so... All right, let's see.
Oh, these are snug.
Steven says, I have the single rail kit and was thinking of adding a second runner. Would that help improve it?
It depends on how tight the rail is, how tight the block is. So both of these blocks are not super tight. If I just use one of them, there's a little bit of wiggle, but if I have both of them on there, they're snug. But they slide really like glass. So if you have one rail and it's tight enough, you're probably going to be okay. A lot of people go with one rail. I went with two, just that was my original intent of the design. And I've had these rails sit on a shelf for well over a year. So I didn't know that you can get away with one rail, but a lot of people do.
Rich asks, did you seriously ask a bunch of 3D printing nerds if we are all into DIY stuff?
That's fair. You are all into DIY stuff. So go subscribe to Ed
They
the Old
watch
Tech
your
Guy.
channel, so clearly all you do is DIY.
Yeah. And if you actually want to watch somebody that knows what they're talking about, go see Ed the Old Tech Guy, because compared to him, this is a clown show. All right, I got some shorties. I think these are 6mm long.
Steven says mine runs like glass.
Perfect, then yeah, keep it the way it is. No need to change it if it's working. So these are, it's a common size you get in these little hardware kits on Amazon, 8mm. So M5 socket head cap screw, 8mm of thread length. And when it tightens up against the belt, it will bottom out on the plastic and not crush the belt too much and damage your belt. Which was not an accident. I actually intended for that. Get these started. Oh my goodness. Oh, that's the wrong one. Haha. That's my tensioner bolt. There's the one thing about threads in the plastic. Sometimes it can be hard to start. In the STL, I actually have the threads modeled. So if your printer is dialed in, it will print the threads. And they'll be a little tight, just so they're not too loose and don't back out on you. Where's my belt at?
Yodan says, if it's not broke, upgrade it until it breaks.
Yes.
Then fix that.
Yes, that is a true statement. All right, and show the people. Noise. The belt will go in and there's little notches on the inside. And you could pull it through however long you want to give you more adjustment room.
Do we get to see from the side?
Like that?
From the side.
Like that? Which way? Like that? Ah. It's killing me. All right. There's that one. And it's going to go around this way. I'm sure I'm
Totally off camera.
way off here.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see what I'm doing. So we'll just loosely.
You don't need to see what you're doing. We need to see what you're doing.
True. That'll hold. So, and I'm not sure if this is exactly correct, but this is easy to adjust. I've actually had all this together once already to verify it all fits. And when I did take it all apart, I noticed the bearing, the idler bearing for the tensioner, it's like chunky. And when I pulled it apart, the bearing fell out in pieces, real bad. So I put new bearings in it today. And it's good as new. All right, get this around the motor belt pulley, and then we'll tighten these down. And the file I have for the hole jig is a pattern for all these holes. So you could situate your blocks however you want. If you want to do 4 blocks, if you want to just do 2 or 3 or whatever. But if you do go with 4 blocks, you will need to get longer rails. I have 400 millimeter ones. You'll probably have to go 450 millimeters, so you don't lose your any of your travel. I didn't do my math correct when I originally had done this.
Drew asks, did I hear correctly that you'll be adding a belt tensioner in there somewhere?
Yes, and I will show you that. And I plan, a goal for me is to be able to make them and sell them, but we'll see. This one didn't tighten down correctly. This one missed. Okay, hopefully that stayed lined up. I don't see why it wouldn't have. Oh, come on. Here's the struggle bus. We've entered the struggle zone. There we go. You okay there? Just getting all choked up over this.
It's just so beautiful.
It is.
Someone asks, are you finding it to be solid enough with just 2 blocks versus 4 that some have used?
Yes, is definitely solid enough. And again, that will depend on the precision of your rails that you have and how much preload or lack of preload there are on the bearing blocks. When you get the inexpensive ones off of AliExpress, Amazon, whatever, you don't get to decide how much preload they have, so you just kind of get what they give you. So the ones I have don't have very much preload, and in fact one of them has clearance, which is not what I wanted, but with both of them together it's good enough, and it's way more solid than the wheels, the V-notch rollers. So if you do go with like a genuine high wind or something nice, you could actually pick how much preload they're going to have. So I will, actually no, I'll just wing it.
That's a good question. Drew asks, if we were to do this upgrade and we get rails that are not flat and we don't have access to a metal mill, how would you recommend we flatten them out?
You can get a piece of sandpaper, like, I don't know, 600 grit or so. Put it on a very flat surface, like a granite countertop, glass table.
Our friend from France says, good night, thank you from a French nurse. Thank you so much for all you do in the medical field, man. You all are
Yeah, thank you.
hardworking, amazing people.
And good night. Was that a super chat?
I don't know.
I believe
Is that what
that
that
was.
is?
Yes. Thank you, my French nurse friend, for the super chat. I appreciate it.
Kyle had the same thought I had.
What was that?
A hammer.
A hammer. Yeah.
He gave specifics. I was just thinking a hammer. Any sort of hammer.
Lined up perfect the first time. So, yeah, so to get the bow out, if you don't have a mill, I would get some sandpaper, like, yeah, probably 600 grit, 500 grit, something like that. Put it on a very flat surface, like a granite countertop or a glass table. Or even a good desk that's pretty flat.
Well, we don't need to see you in the picture with you.
Right.
I'm tired. Sorry.
It's okay. And as evenly and best as you can, wet sand it down until you'll see the paint or the anodizing coating come off, and until it's all even, then you could be pretty confident that it is straight and even. And then you can get a straight edge, a good scale, to use and a flashlight underneath the edge of it. And if you see any light shining through in a spot, you know it's low in that spot. So keep doing that until you can put a straight edge on it and, you know, 4 or 5 sections along the length of it. And if you don't see any light through any part of the under part of the edge, then it's perfectly flat, or as flat as you can get it. So yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, those jigs work great. All right, let's get, oh yeah, we are way too tight. So I will.
Do you consider this a must-have upgrade or only if you get trouble with the wheels?
I wouldn't say it's a must-have upgrade. It is. Considering the cost of the printer and the cost of the upgrade, it's more if you just want to. The stock setup can do just fine and give you quality prints, but what you will probably need to do is take it apart and check each wheel and make sure that the bearings in them are okay. Because if you have one wheel that's got crunchy bearings, you'll start to see that in the quality of the print. And then your idler bearing, your idler pulley there, check that bearing too. Because if that's crunchy, you'll have issues. And that's what I was noticing. No matter what I did, it just wasn't quite right. It's like, man, my X1 got way better quality out of the box than this did, and it's the same extruder, same motion system. What is going on? And it felt tighter than the X1. And then when I took it apart, it's like, oh man, all these bearings are messed up in these wheels. So
I had the old tech guy.
Thank you, Ed, the old tech guy. Thank you for the super chat. You're the man.
You got a comment above that one too. Might want to double check the rail link, as it might be, or as it still tries taking you to the
MGN9C rails. Oh, okay, that was an Amazon link, so they might have changed the listing on Amazon. So I'll check that. Thank you.
Silent Sauce, how did you decide whether the linear rails were going to where the linear rails were going to sit on the Y extrude or on the Y extrusion? Did you just center it?
Yeah, center in each of the channels. So these ones are 12 millimeters wide, and you have 7, 8-ish millimeters of width at the top of the channel here. So that gives you a couple millimeters of solid face-to-face contact on here. Some people say to use an MGN9, so a 9 millimeter wide rail, which I don't recommend doing that because you would have to be so perfect on here for it to not get sucked into one side or the other. And the cost difference is really not that much, and you get a much stiffer solution with the 12. And honestly, 15s would be better, but that's more weight, obviously. The bigger you go, the more weight of the block. So I think 12 is a good all-around solution for the y-axis. I'll be doing 12s as well on the x-axis. So
Marcio says X1 is way better than the X2. Says I've had an X2 since October, and I'm receiving pieces from artillery. Since then, all troubles. The ABL is the most, an expletive, I have ever seen.
yeah, I was super disappointed with their implementation of the ABL. I mean, it's a BL Touch essentially. It's just a bad clone of it because they just fall apart. The pins fall out. They don't last. They're prone to just malfunction. And if you've taken one off, it feels cheap. It doesn't feel like a quality part, where like a genuine BL Touch feels like a nice part. Even the cheap 3D Touch clones feel nicer. So it's a huge disappointment. And for what artillery charges for a replacement, like, are you kidding me? No, $30, $35 is not okay for that cheap of a part. So I'm just loosening these screws and adjusting the belt length till I know I'll be good. I think that should be all right. All right, where is, So.
Rich says, I replaced the ABL on my Genius Pro with a CR Touch. Way better.
Yep, I did the same thing, CR Touch on this, and it's really solid. I really like it. In fact, I might end up changing up on my X1 to a CR Touch as well. I'll have to change the design of my mounting bracket for the Chimera, but totally worth it.
Marcio says, and if you want to use the X2 without ABL, the FW they have on the website is full of bugs.
So I need to do a firmware, a non-ABL version. Is that what we're saying? Okay, what are we stuck on here? No, we're just still way too short, huh? There we go. And it helps to have a nice long, like a T-handle for stuff like this. There we go.
Oh, okay. All right, our French friend who did the super chat, David says, from one medical professional to another, great name. In some parts of America, we nickname it Milk of Amnesia. That's funny.
Okay. I'm not.
That's okay. Steven says, I've got 2 X2s and Genius Pro and love the ABL compared to the CR Touch.
Huh. So everyone's mileage may vary, I guess, huh? Okay, so now we're a little loose. But that is okay. That's why I made this adjustable.
So Marcio says, with X2 with the new chipset on the TFT are completely crumbs. Other words, but you know, just in case I'm
right. Yeah. So my TFT has the old chipset. I haven't tried the new chipset yet, so I don't know. It's one of those. I gotta take your word for it. So just getting the belt length dialed in so my tensioning system actually functions. All right, so what I've done is I've drilled a hole and tapped it for an M6 nut or screw, and I use that as a simple tensioner.
Marcio says, lucky you.
So my goal is to, because this is a pretty simple part, make some out of aluminum, some alloy ones, and sell them. I have to figure out how long it would take me to do it, cost and stuff like that, to make, even if it's to verify that it's even worthwhile. So I'm not having to sell them for too expensive. Oh, that won't fit now, so. All right. Yep.
Rich says, I had to replace the TFT on my Sidewinder X1. Got one with a new chipset. It seems to work fine, but it won't matter as soon as I'm working and setting up the clipper for that machine.
There you go. Actually, I could use a T-net for that. That's better. Nice and smooth. And lastly, the spacer block for the end stop. So you're going to need a longer-ish M3 screw. Hopefully that's not too long. That should be okay. Oh, and a washer. Do I have washers? Do I have washers? I have washers. When screwing something down to the end stops, always use a washer because these things are kind of cheap, the plastic on them, and they tend to get crushed real easy. And this will use the same hole that it was in, it just moves it up a little bit.
Someone asked the tensioner nut, does it need to be in a specific spot or just the general area?
I have
Great
it so
idea.
I have it so it's generally in the middle because there's the most surface area of aluminum on the end there. So it's just got to press on a solid piece of the aluminum profile, and I'm not worried about it like marring or anything like that. It's not that much force being put on it. And if you get the belt tension all that correct, you can get both screws in here. I'm a little loose on the carriage side, so I had to tighten this more so the hole doesn't quite line up. But you could use a T-slot nut in there too to tighten that screw down, and then you could completely remove the tensioning bolt if you wanted to, because it would still be locked in place. All this is just to assist getting the belt tensioned right, and I might even have it too tight. I might loosen it. But there it is. It hits the end stop just fine.
See, Ricardo says the new TFT firmware on the TFT chip, it's the same as the Sidewinder 1. Marcio says the new TFT is full of ghosting, can't change the firmware since there aren't any compatible around. Baby steps won't work. It was released about half a week ago, and not very many people have tested it.
From artillery, is what he's saying?
Don't think.
Straight from artillery? Interesting. I mean, I could just take my X1 firmware, change the main board.
Ricardo says he's tested it and it works just fine.
Huh.
It's weird how that happens.
Yeah, that I don't understand. That's weird. That sounds... I think that's got to be something to do with the new chips on the new TFTs, for them changing over, and their reasoning why I don't know.
Marcio says it's custom made.
I don't know. It didn't seem like there's anything wrong with the old one. So, all right, let's get a build plate on here.
Ricardo says just put the files in a micro SD card and boot the printer.
Yeah, that's how you update it. But I think one thing though is if they're picky with SD cards, and so if you have a not good quality SD card that is, especially if it's more than like 4 gigabytes in size, it'll give you issues. Like it won't update. It'll look like it updates, but it'll be buggy and weird. If you use a quality SD card that is, format down to 4 gigs or less, you should be fine. So, because I run into that, I tried a 32 gig SD card to update it, and it updated, but the screen was completely unresponsive. Very weird.
Rich says, I used your firmware, just need to grab a file from the next firmware. I forgot which one. One of the bin files, I think.
Because it should... Nets?
Next. Maybe next.
Maybe. Maybe. Get these on here.
Sorry, everybody. You all make up your own language with these 3D printers, so trying to figure out what's your own special 3D printer language and what's not.
The language of the 3D printers.
I need a dictionary. I need a translator dictionary for
That's
you
what
and
we
your 3D
come
printers.
up with. The dictionary, the 3D printing dictionary.
New.
New.
Sorry about that, Rich. The new firmware. Forgot which one.
You could use mine. I have it on the website. It's just set up to have the hot end temp max at 300 degrees, but that's super easy to change.
I think that's what he's saying. I used your firmware. Just need to grab the file from the new firmware. I forgot which one.
Okay.
It says I think it was the evo.bin.
Yeah, that's for the new chip. The evo.bin is for the new chip. They should both be in there, and you could put both bin files on there, and it knows which one to pick. So.
You're totally good, Rich. Seriously, sometimes it's hard for me to figure out what language y'all are making up and what's
right.
accidentally typos.
We do that.
You do, particularly you, with your airplane language and your 3D printer language and your computer language.
So
you speak like 7 different languages, and I only stand like 0 of them.
I speak in acronyms. Okay, so what we're going to do is tighten these down as much as I feel like is necessary. And fire this sucker up, see how it moves. And I'm going to wing it for now.
And while he's tightening those down, take a look at that beautiful build plate he's got on there.
Those will be ready to ship real soon.
All of you have put in some pre-orders. Thank you very much. We'll be getting yours out as soon as we can.
Pre-orders will go out
hopefully next week.
Next week, yeah, hopefully. And then we'll have to change the listing on the website to actually be able to order.
Well, we got to try a few of our guinea pigs first to make sure they make them there safe without damage.
Yep, we have a couple shipping guinea pigs. And if they get there in good shape, then we know we're okay. So they did have a pre-order from, I think, Sweden the other day. So.
Rich says, woohoo!
Yep. Oh, you're on that list, Rich. And your oil, too. And these things get... So I get the silicone springs on there.
You and your oil, too.
You and your oil, too. Yeah. I got the silicone springs, which... update on that. They're awesome. Once I got my SP5 dialed, I haven't had to touch the corners on that ever. So it does good.
Drew says, I can't wait. Yours is one of the first to be shipped out too, Drew.
Yep.
Marcio says, what upgrade is that on the motors? Don't you...
Motors.
Do you rather use the ones from Duke Docks?
Not understanding what you are saying.
Look at it. See if it's just I'm not.
Marcio,
Maybe I'm not.
Updated motors on the Duke docks. Still don't know. That, and that. All right. Time to hook up a Raspberry Pi and get this party started.
By the way, hopefully short coming soon. I have suggested that he print a little PC tower case for the Raspberry Pi.
Yeah.
So hopefully short coming soon.
Yeah.
A really silly case to print for it. It'd be something rainbow, unicorn shaped for the little one.
She would love that. She would love it. Okay, there's that. Printer needs power.
Rich says, yeah, the silicone springs are great. I have them on all of my printers.
Yeah. So I got to order more for the rest of my printers. Because
Oh, Marcia says to fix them onto the base. I'm wondering if he's meaning that.
Oh, the brackets. Yeah, so they're just some support brackets that add a little bit of rigidity to keep this from being so wobbly. Because of the contact patch where the uprights mount in is very small, and so it has a lot of wiggle and wobble to it. So all it does is it holds the motor, and the motor is bracketed to the profile here, so it just gives you a bigger contact patch for the mounting of it, and it makes it substantially more stiff.
I think Rich got it just as I got it too, because he says I think he means the blue brackets.
Yeah. So, and those are available for download. They're on the website.
Oh, Kyle says, woot, thanks for the reminder. Pre-order placed.
Oh, thank you, Kyle.
Thank you, Kyle.
Ooh. Okay, yeah. That, yeah.
I think you're thinking the same thing I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm. Boop.
Marcio says, yes, Duke Docks designed a bracelet that makes it like a triangle to support it. I'm wondering if it means like the...
Oh, yeah, the CR10 style. Yep. That works great, I'm sure, but
Oh, David says, style. Really enjoying the Sidewinder 1 versus the Sidewinder 2 information since I have a 1 and still love it.
Mm-hmm. So the 2, it's just another iteration of the X1. They went to a 32-bit mainboard, which yay or nay if that's good or not, because I don't know if you'll notice a difference in quality of print with that. It does handle Clipper, obviously, much better if you do that. Some subtle differences with the frame and whatnot, but it's still generally the same printer. The biggest difference, obviously, is going to be the auto bed leveling probe, and then the way they connect the electrical from the upright into the base here. They use a small PCI Express, like a motherboard slot. I was looking at that the other day. I had it apart. I was like, that's a PCI Express Gen 1 slot. That's funny, but it works. So
Drew's bringing back some early live stream jokes and says Matt doesn't want a Honda Civic.
No, I don't want a Honda Civic. All right, let's see if my Pi will come up here. Boop.
And if you don't get that, just go back and watch some of those early live streams over again. You'll see them.
This site cannot be reached. Wah, wah, wah. Oh. Configuration network. Connecting. Trying to associate. Trying to associate. Sometimes the Raspberry Pi has issues getting on the Wi-Fi. Yeah, it won't connect. That's okay. That's why I have the Pi screen here.
I wonder if that's the Raspberry Pi, if it's just our internet. I've noticed I've had some issues with some stuff.
With it dropping out. Yeah, I don't know. Home all. Here we go. Oof. There's a notch in one of those wheels. That's not good.
From this angle, it looks like that thing just smashes down into the bed.
Right. All right, so now we'll do corners, I think. Is that how we do this?
Drew says Raspberry Pi Wi-Fi has never been the best.
That's what I
You
hear.
can hardwire that thing.
Bed level. Screws adjust. Minutes ago.
Stephen asks, would you consider designing and upgrading to Z-axis supports CR10 style?
I might do something like that for the finish, the modification I'm gonna do to finish it. Well, the back one there is perfect. 15 minutes and a minute and 39.
Drew says, isn't screw adjustment awesome?
It is. It's a little bit weird, but it's awesome. So I can never remember whether it means, like it says clockwise 50 minutes. Is that clockwise looking down or clockwise looking up? I can never remember. So we're just going to go looking up and then run through. And while that does that, oh, it's so weird, the sound of the rails, the bearings.
Let's see. If someone says, hello there from Greece, thanks for doing all this work. I'm getting my hands on an X as soon as my first printer, and it's great to see someone doing all this effort to keep it up. Oh, doing all this effort, keep it up. Sorry, I can't read today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining from Greece. It must be pretty late at night in Greece. 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning or so. So thank you for staying up late and hanging out with us. We appreciate it. Oh, so I went the wrong direction. So that's
Drew
clockwise.
says down?
Down, yeah.
Of course, he said that a few minutes ago. I'm just
yeah.
reading it now to you suffer.
And while that does that, you want to go to camera 3 and I could show the masses what's going on here?
Sure.
Right, am I picture in picture? Because we're fancy here.
Are you the producer, am I?
All right.
Yes, you are.
So this is what I've got so far for the design of what I want to do. I tore this thing pretty much completely apart to get accurate measurements of all the frame parts here. So these are as accurate as it's going to get. I asked Artillery if they have CAD files for the printer, and they told me no. So whatever, Artillery, I'll do it myself. So this is what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch the uprights out for some 40 by 40s to give it one more rigidity and contact patch. And then, yes.
Drew says, I love how Emily let out that huge sigh before doing camera 3.
Right? My mouth is dry. I'm so sorry, everyone. I'm thirsty.
So, since you put all this together and it's not the Artillery, next question, when can the masses expect this EP 3D printer to ship?
Right. That is a long-term goal, is to start making custom 3D printers to sell.
I went back to camera 2.
So yeah, that is a long-term goal. A big issue with that is going to be cost and time. And also would depend on the demand for something like that. So as it currently stands, from a cost point, I can't compete with the big names, because in order for me to put one together, the time to build it and everything, and the parts, because I'm not able to get parts at wholesale costs. So you're talking Bamboo Labs, P1P money, Prusa money for a printer that may not be that good. So, but I do want to dabble and experiment with just making my own custom machine that is maybe like a Voron kind of deal where it's a kit or it's an open source thing. But again, yeah, so.
So Rich says, I was just about to ask that. Drew just said what you just said. So just do kits and have a BOM online. And Abdul says, just bought the X2 a couple of weeks ago and had the same idea of adding linear bearings.
So
in this whole thing with Matt just being a generally good guy is why we'll never be rich. Not rich, but like money rich.
Money rich, yeah, because I will always undercharge. Yeah, so back to camera 3, please. So currently, I've got the design set up to do linear rails for the Z-axis, and I've got brackets designed up, and I'm going to be using the new Wobble X system, the WS8. That's the one thing I forgot to link. I'll link a video about this below. It's really cool how this works, because you have freedom of movement for both the wobbling of the screw and tilting, because when it wobbles, you do get a little bit of tilt in the lead screw nut, and it can tilt and roll around freely, and it works really good. Like the demo I saw about it, it's like, that is amazing. So I have this going. So I got the rails in, and I'm going with HGW15 rails with the flange type.
Now you're getting needy.
Right, with the flange type block. One thing is these are a pretty high preload, so I'm hoping the weight of the gantry will be enough to be able to move them, because it's smooth as glass. It's just a high preload, so it's snug, it's tight. And I test printed one of the brackets that I designed, and it seems to fit in there just right. So that's how it's going to sit. And I'll have these available when I do it. Have these available for download, and I will also do a full design with like MGN 15 rails on the stock uprights, so people don't have to do the big, get new extrusions and all that kind of stuff. They could use the stock setup and just put the rails on it.
So Abdul says for the linear rails, just thinking about it because the stock ones are a bit bumpy.
Yep, and I noticed that in my Z, I upgraded to the polycarbonate ones, and one of them has a dent in it, and you might have seen it when it was coming down. It's like thud, thud, thud. So I don't know. It should just have rails. All of them should have rails. I don't know why people are still using these wheels.
And Drew has made a promise that moving forward, he's going to use as many acronyms as he possibly can to super confuse me.
You're the man, Drew. So. Clockwise. I think this is clockwise, yeah. And just keep on going. We have 5 minutes. 5-minute warning. Ooh.
By the way, Drew, I don't know if Matt told you, but as you were messaging him today, every time his phone went off, the wind started blowing. So next time you message, I'm going to need you to keep that Canadian air up there, not send it down with those messages.
That's racist. Canadian air, really?
That cold Canadian wind, yeah.
That cold Canadian wind. So counterclockwise, 23 minutes.
Of course, it was coming from the south, so technically it was that Oregon wind, but
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, the screws adjust thing is kind of cool. Marlin has a thing kind of like it, but it doesn't give you how much to rotate. It just gives you a distance.
Fresh, clean air. What is that? I don't know. Clean air?
Where are you from? Chicago? LA? Smog?
Drew says.
Oh, Drew.
Fresh, clean, yeah.
You live in the middle of nowhere, Drew.
That's what he said. He's sending down all his fresh, clean air our way. He's trying to help us out.
I thought he was being sarcastic. Fresh, clean air? What's that?
I was being sarcastic.
Oh.
It's all right. We got this. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, just keep going around until it's right. And the nice thing is for this, you don't really have to heat it up to do this.
Rich says, so wait, Clipper tells you how much to turn each screw to level it?
Yes. So
Okay.
let's see if I could bring it over without too much glare. When this is done, you'll see.
Yeah, wow, that's all clear.
I know. I'm keeping it out of the way for now.
Actually, that's not bad.
All right, so can you see that? Is it
Yes.
all? Okay. So it gives you a reference, and then so it says this one counterclockwise 5 minutes, clockwise 7 minutes, and counterclockwise 22 minutes. So a minute is literally like on a clock, right? So counterclockwise about 5 minutes.
Nothing but clear now. Better.
What is it? Clockwise 7. Yep, and then counterclockwise 22. So this corner's high up. And then just keep going until you're pretty close.
I am not building a Voron for you, says, yeah, Octoprint and Marlin as well. Love the name. That's a good name.
That is a good name. Won't be able to do any test printing for you guys today, but I'll mess with it tonight a little bit.
Someone says, RIP all the MG12 rails I have bought. If things are going larger.
I mean, 12s are fine. I mean, even on the Z-axis, you can get away with a 12. You just got to line everything up right. The problem with the Z-axis is that you got to be precise, otherwise you'll get them binding. And binding is the worst thing. So, wow.
Drew says, yeah, it's great. You tell Clipper where each screw is, so you have the ABL BL touch probe right
on
about
top. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you tell it what thread pitch it is.
Marcio says, I'm off to bed. Keep up the good work. Cheers from Portugal.
Oh, cheers, Mud.
Thank
Have
you
a
so
good
much for
sleep.
joining us.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us.
Let's see. Drew says he's going to send us the link from an anti-wobble video.
There's a few of them out there. There's like the Oldham couplers and a few different Wobble X variants. That's been there's been iterations of Wobble X from a certain individual online. So that side's good. And what's funny is you adjust one side and it affects all the others.
So I'm not building a Voron for you, says it's Voron, but French, it was Nero 3D meme. It was a Nero 3D meme. My goodness.
Nero 3D. Oh! Nero 3D, that sounds familiar. I've heard that before. Where did I hear that?
Rich says, is that a plugin for Octoprint currently running on my Genius Pro?
I don't
He's
know.
asking. I'm not building a.
Oh.
Oh, Drew says the one he sent you the other day. That, my friends, is 4 o'clock.
Maybe. Okay. Well, that's 4 o'clock. I got to go pick up a little one. The mechanical portion is done. I still have to finish doing the corners and then figure out which wheel on this has a dent in it and fix that later. But thank you all for hanging out. For those that gave me super chats, we really appreciate that. That's amazing. You've all been great. And this has been a fun series, and I'm excited to continue on with this series. Many, many, many more videos to come. But if you haven't yet, please subscribe. Hit that like button. I noticed that about half of you are unsubscribed, so subscribe. Also follow me on Facebook and Instagram at Ethereal Project 3D, where I post about current and ongoing projects. Also, check out the website, check out the forums. We're going to get on there more and more, hopefully soon. It's been a lot lately. And more stuff to come. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Happy 3D printing. Thanks for watching. We'll see you later.